Hi, I'm Russ, an independent filmmaker and actor in New York, and in between the chances I get to do my creative projects, I love to sit down and talk with other artists to see how it is they do what they do, how they take art and use their craft to reveal truth to an audience. So in this series of conversations, you'll meet some people you may recognize, some people you won't recognize, but they're all independent artists, and we'll get in depth in a long-form conversation to see how it is they do what they do. Welcome to Art, Craft, Truth. This time on Art, Craft, Truth, actor, director, teacher, Rosalyn Coleman Williams, a tremendously accomplished artist. From the Yale Drama School to working directly with August Wilson on the piano lesson and 7 Guitars on Broadway, coming up the ranks with her good friend Viola Davis, acting with Meryl Streep and Angela Bassett in the film Music from the Heart, being directed by the legendary Academy Award-winning director Arthur Penn, and becoming a member of the Actors Studio. Dozens of film roles with fantastic directors, a ton of television, NYPD Blue, Law & Order, Nurse Jackie, Blue Bloods, Blacklist, on and on and on. She's also in the current cast of To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway. Roz is also an accomplished director, an acclaimed acting coach. With so much to explore, it's really a shame to try and get this all done in one show, but I'll take what I can get, and what I got was gold. Rosalyn Coleman Williams. Hey there.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
It's great to meet you.
Oh, wait, my background isn't totally...
That's all right. It looks like production, you know, it's real cool. There you go.
Yeah, it's good. Look at that.
Awesome. Well, you look fantastic. So is it Rosalyn, Roz? What do you prefer? Like, what do you prefer?
Most people call me Roz.
Okay.
They usually start out with Rosalyn and they make their way down to Roz. Okay.
We'll start with Ms. Williams or Ms. Coleman Williams, or however you want to go. So this is this is super awesome of you to do this. I really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Because Liz was really cool to give me a couple of actors to look at and hopefully to get as guests. And so we'll go through kind of bits and pieces of your career where highlights pop up, because you're incredibly accomplished, but it really is the nuts and bolts of how you do it, like your process. And what makes me excited about you is because you're a coach and a teacher and a director, you can articulate this as some guests have a difficult time doing. So I'm very excited about that.
Okay, good.
So that's really cool. So just to get into it, there was one little blurb I saw on one of your websites that resonated with me, because it's me. If anybody knows me, it's me. And it's, I like having done it. But,
right.
but doing it is war. Doing it is hard. You know, getting up to actually have to go write or shoot or cut or whatever it is a pain in the ass. But having done it and seeing the product is good. So where does that come from? What's that about?
That is definitely all about directing. Because when I'm directing, I miss acting. You know?
Yeah, acting's the gig, man.
Acting is so much easier.
Yes, absolutely.
And it does feel like, especially the shoot. So most of my directing, I've directed a few theater projects, but most of it is film project. And the shoot is physically and mentally draining.
Yeah.
And there are always problems. And I always love the actors. I love the acting. I don't mind preparing, Right. I like planning. But the actual shoot, like waiting for the lights to set up and how it comes out, and the little things, a lot about the art direction. It's really hard.
Right. Yeah, no, people don't realize in every medium, film, television, even theater, that the idea of, for me anyway, some people love it, but the idea of, all right, I got to pack up the stuff, I got to get my head together, I got to, it's so much.
And if it's low budget and I actually have to carry stuff.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I got to pack my car again. Oh man.
I got to pack my car. And I hate that then the next day, day 2, you wake up, you feel like you got hit by a bus.
Right. Right.
or you feel like God is literally pushing you down in your bed,
Right, right.
holding you there.
Right. Yep. And then when you edit is finished, right, and you're looking at it and you're like, yeah, no, this is why I did it. And then what's funny is, you know, you watch it so many times through a cut, or you watch it all the way through a festival, and then you never watch it again. You know, it's
You know
like,
what? It's so funny because somebody just asked me, my sorority from college. They said, we want to do a movie night and show your films. And I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. And I was like, oh, what do I want to see? What do I want to show? You know, that was kind of exciting. And I do love, now, as much as I hate the war of the shoot,
right,
the mental, especially mental war, I love watching it with an audience.
right, right.
And you know, of course, and the most glory is the talkback.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
The talkback is like the Oscar.
Absolutely.
The high that you get from watching it with the audience and having them give you feedback
Right.
is literally, that's got to be like crack.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh, yeah.
unattainable. That high is so amazing.
Well, I'll tell you what. I the more I'm listening to you, the more you and I resonate as we think about that. Are you able to let things go real quick? Like, in other words, that's the picture. When you watch it back, or you're not going, I should have done this, or that. You can kind of let that go, or no?
It depends on how it came out.
Okay.
Some of them, if it's bad, if I don't like it, I close my eyes during the parts that I don't like. Yes.
That's awesome.
That helps a lot.
Yeah.
Because then you're not just looking at that awful thing.
Right,
that,
right.
You know, the boom mic, or some terrible thing that ruins it for you.
Right.
So I do that.
But in general, you can the piece kind of comes and goes. Yeah.
If I like it.
Yeah.
You know, if it doesn't come out good and you put a lot of time and energy into it, it breaks your heart. I liken it to, it's like a boyfriend dumped you. Something doesn't come out good.
I gotcha.
So painful.
Right.
That, like, even if you ever think of it, it just hurts.
Right. Yeah. Well, I feel you there. So I'm gonna, as you'll see as we go through, I'm gonna bounce around the timeline a bit. That's one of my famous lines here, as I bounce around, because as things strike. So we'll start in a linear fashion, but we'll go through. But I mean, like I said, you're one of. I've gotten to talk to a lot of different people. You know, musicians and singers and dancers and actors and filmmakers and editors and all that. You're one of the most accomplished craftsmen that I've gotten to talk to, because, I mean, Yale Drama master, member of the Actors Studio, dozens of feature films, television, Broadway, Off-Broadway. You're a director, you're an actor, and you're an acting teacher, which really is awesome, because you can articulate, we can really get into the craft and the process, which is what the show is all about. So let's go back. Let's start right at the beginning. First of all, where are you from originally?
I'm from Washington, D.C. is where I grew up.
Okay.
I was born in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
And always a fire for this? Always wanted to be in it?
Well, I think I was in the Black Panther daycare program, and we were involved in a riot when I don't know if I was 3 or if I was 5.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know if it was a riot, but I will tell you what happened. We were at a picnic, and the program went from 3 to 18, and some boys went up in the woods and got into some kind of trouble, and all the police came.
Wow.
They started arresting the counselors and the larger kids, and it was chaos. And so it was traumatizing. Me and my 3 siblings were there. And at the end, they said, please come back tomorrow. We're going to, we need to come back together tomorrow, the next day. So the next day we went back and we put on a play about it.
Wow.
Played myself. And my line was, Mommy, Mommy, I want my mommy. That's all I had to do.
Wow.
Which I can never say that without connecting to
Yeah,
it.
there's some sense memory happening right there. Wow. That's intense.
Yeah, it was very intense.
First of all, what a progressive forethought for whoever decided that was the way to handle that.
Right?
Right? I mean,
right?
That's pretty cool, man. Let's put on a play and work it out.
And my parents let us go back and do it again. So that was like, awesome. And I really felt like sort of that creative process or whatever. That's what I trace it back to, that moment
Right.
of, being powerless to being empowered
Wow.
by turning it into art. And then, when I was about, and, I was a shy kid, but I always wanted to act. And then when I was about maybe 14, I came out to my parents as an actor.
Yeah, we all have to do that at some point.
Yes. And when I was 16, they let me change from my private school to School for the Arts, and the rest is history.
Wow. So you went to School for the Arts. And so when you get into that, first of all, how old are you when that kind of thing starts? When you get into what age
When
is
I was
that?
14, I started taking acting classes and workshops. But when I was 16, I switched to Duke Ellington School for the Arts at a high school in Washington, D.C.
Right.
And that was, life-changing. I still think of the best actors I've ever seen as the actors I met in 11th and 12th grade.
Right. So in 11th and 12th grade, what kind of stuff are they teaching? Is there a particular kind of angle on it? Or...
We did everything.
Yeah.
They taught method acting, but we did, I played Blanche Dubois. We did Everyman. We did Medea.
Wow.
We did everything, and that was like my introduction to Aristotle and
Sophocles and Tennessee Williams all at the same time. Yeah.
All at the same time. And it was all like, I was so into it. Yeah.
Did they have you doing like dance and voice and stuff like that too?
Yeah, we did movement and movement for the actor. The departments were separated. So we didn't do like singing. We did voice for the actor. Right. More like Linkletter. Yeah.
And so what was the idea in your head in school at that point? Was it like, I mean, this is absolutely my career, and when I get out, I'm going to do this? Like, what was the road you were looking at as a young person?
Okay, so as a young person, I was looking at, I really thought that, in high school, I wasn't very good. All the other actors were way better than me. I was like the usher, But I felt that I will never quit. And eventually there will be a part for me. So that was my thing. I will never quit. And I just had, my teachers were like gods to me.
Yeah.
So, and I was a good girl.
Okay.
So my teachers worked in theater locally, and they like hired me as like a stage manager for one of their plays. And I was totally into it. It was, what's that play? It's a music. It's a music. Brecht. It's got Jenny, that Jenny song, Pirate Jenny song, that play.
Okay, so you were the stage manager, or you were in it?
I was the stage manager, and I ran the light board.
All right, yeah. That's where I started too. I started operating a spotlight. That's before I could get on stage,
And from there, my parents are educators, so I knew I had to go to college. So I used to hang out at the drama bookstore, and I participated in arts recognition and talent search.
Mm-hmm.
And and that was like the SATs for actors, if you will.
Right.
And so I got chosen as one of the 30 actors to go to fly to Florida and compete for scholarships. And, that really changed my life.
What was the competition? What did you have to do?
Doing monologues and taking classes for the whole weekend.
Okay.
And that's where I met Viola Davis, still one of my best friends.
That's awesome.
And, I know. And a few, and like Reggie Rock Bythewood, who's an amazing writer-director. He was in my class there. Wow. Wendell Pierce was it. Yeah. I mean, like all these people, Vanessa Williams, all these people who are still actors 30 years later were there. Right. We were in high school.
Right. So this is the early to mid 80s, I'm guessing, something like
83.
83. Yeah. We're close to the same age. I'm a little after, a couple of years after you. So out of school, so where did you end up going to actual school?
I got scholarships to lots of places.
I'm sure you did.
Carnegie Mellon was my choice.
Wow.
But my mother, first I chose SMU, which was a big theater school at the time. And my mother, and then I went to the O'Neill for the summer because I also got that opportunity to go and be at Eugene O'Neill Theater Center for the summer. And while I was there, I had a scholarship to SMU. I called my mother, on the payphone back in the day. And she's like, I can't send a child of mine to the South.
Wow.
So SMU was over.
Wow.
So I said, that's okay, I'll go to Carnegie Mellon. And I called them up and they started making arrangements, putting together, a new package for me and everything. And my mother's like, no, you have to go to Howard. And so I went to Howard
Wow.
University.
There you go. Right.
Which is where my father taught, which is where we all went.
What did Dad teach?
HU. Howard is in
No. What did Dad teach there?
Oh, urban systems and computer science.
Computer science. Oh, right.
Yes, and he also later became the provost there. Oh. So, I mean, he was a fixture there.
Wow. Wow.
So, and we all went to school there.
That's got to be. Dad's a fixture at the place where you're going to school.
I went to children's theater there. I did not want to go there for my college.
Yeah, right.
So I lied to everybody. I told them I was from Detroit because I had family in Detroit. I never went home. I stayed in the dorm the whole time.
That's right. You had to have a secret identity.
Because I just felt like a failure because I didn't go away to school.
I got you.
But Howard was a fantastic program, and it's a fantastic school. And I'm so glad I went there. I'm so proud that I'm a HU graduate. So. And
talk to me about Yale Drama. I mean, legendary stuff here.
So at the end of Howard, the choice is like go out and go to New York and just make it, or go to LA and make it. And that just had I didn't know what that meant. Mm-hmm. So I was in the Michael Kahn at the Folger Theater, which is now Shakespeare Theater at DC or whatever. But then it was the Folger Theater. And he had the first program to bring African Americans in to the cast or whatever. Okay. So he had like this initiative to bring a bunch of African Americans in. And back then it was just African Americans. Nobody else could come. It was like white people and African Americans. Everybody else was SOL. Right. So he brought a group in, and I was in that group. Mm. There were some professional actors and there were some interns, and I was one of the interns. And that's my last year at Howard. I did that. And so I got to be in A Winter's Tale, Love's Labor's Lost. And it was there that I saw that all the actors who were playing the leads went to Yale or Juilliard or NYU. Mm. So I said, that's when I got the idea. Right. When I found out about Yale, I heard that you had to be older and that you had to be, and it took 5 or 6 times to get in. Interesting. So I just prepared my audition, and thinking that you had to be older, I was like, well, this audition doesn't really matter because I'm too young and it's my first audition. So instead of like doing like 2-minute monologues, I did like a 1-person show. Monologues are so long that they stopped me. Wow. And I was actually offended.
It's like, hey, I didn't get to the 3rd act. What are you doing? Yeah.
I mean, I just did everything wrong. And so that's when I decided to go to Yale or
Did you get in on that audition?
Yeah, I got in.
First shot, right?
First shot.
So isn't that interesting? There's something about, again, this might be a theme that we'll come back to when we talk about craft, is the letting go of, it's like, hey, you know what? Expectation. You know, I'm here, I'm going to do it, and I got a show to do, so let me do it.
Extremely excited to be there. I had a captive audience.
That's awesome.
I was excited about the space I was acting in. It was very, it's very old and theatrical. Right. So I was excited to show off the work.
Wow. So in that program, because it is such a legendary program, what do you do? What's the thrust of the education for an actor there?
Okay, so it's totally changed.
Okay.
And it's way better now than when I went there.
Really?
Yeah, because I did a play there in 2017, so I got to go to classes and experience the program a little bit again, and more so as an educator observing this time. But so you have, what's really strong about Yale is that you have classes like, say, maybe 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And, you do your basic voice, acting, speech, fencing, movement, whatever. And you do that, and then you have rehearsal blocks. The thing is that they have playwrights, new playwrights, and so you do like maybe 10 plays a year, each actor. Sometimes you're playing big roles, sometimes you're playing small roles. And me coming from, I really hadn't been in a play like my own role all the way until that time.
Wow.
So it's really performance based.
Okay. Get you up on your feet, right into it and do it.
Doing it. And that's the strength of it. And now it's even better because you have also on camera acting, you have voice, and you have privates all the time. And even when I was there, it felt like I was like a thoroughbred horse, you know,
right.
Like you come in, like I was playing Rosalind, and As You Like It, you're like, I don't know, I just get a little tense, and somebody comes and gives you a massage. How do you feel? You know, so it's like a lot of self-care, a lot of like taking care of your instrument, and you're just in fantastic shape as an actor in terms of what you can accomplish, you know, working like that.
Yeah. Well, there's something to be said about, you know, just getting up and swinging the bat, you know, but at the same time, are there instructors who are, you know, like forming ideas about craft for you or putting you in a certain direction, or is it just literally get up there and
oh no, in the acting classes, you're getting sort of like how to act.
And what was that in Yale's version that you saw? Like, what was
Yale's version? Well, I did it with Earl Gister, and he's all about actions.
Actions.
Yeah, so it's all about, you know, what do you want, and then what are your actions?
Right.
That is really the foundation of being able to articulate it so that you can actually nuance it.
Right, right.
And, that is like the basis of the first year acting, and that's based on, you know, realism. So we do Chekhov, Strindberg, and Ibsen.
Okay.
The first semester, and your first play that you do is going to be a Chekhov, Strindberg, or Ibsen, directed by one of the first year directors. But I was lucky, because August Wilson was there.
Wow.
And he was doing piano lesson, and there was a role for Grace, who's about, I think she's described, she's about this high, nice, healthy, and got some nice hips on it, he says. I think he said she's brown skinned. I think he said that too. He might say that. So, which is pretty much describes me. And the person who was actually playing, the third year who was actually playing the role of Grace, was very skinny and was also playing the role of Medea in the school at the same time. Okay. So I got to play the role, you know, in rehearsal. So I got to act with Sam Jackson.
Wow.
Be around the table with August Wilson with a new play directed by Lloyd Richards.
Wow.
And so that was my very first semester.
Wow. So what's that like to be in development of a piece? You're there when the playwright's like fiddling with the knobs and the levers and stuff. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing is new play development, which is why I love film, because it's always a new play.
Right, exactly.
And that's like, I feel like my strength is like around the table, like figuring out what's going on, what is the story, what do we want,
right?
You know, what's the story we want to tell,
right?
And that kind of work, you know, that kind of dramaturgical work, those kind of discussions, they just don't happen anymore. But to me, it's the most exciting. It's like I love nothing more than warm pages. And August used to write on a yellow pad like this.
Wow.
Pencil, you know, he'd write it out and then like riff off a piece, pass you the line.
Wow.
Somebody run and go type that out. You get a warm page.
Wow, that's so cool.
That was really, really exciting.
That's very exciting. Yeah, I mean, to me, that's the whole thing about what we do is, you know, I've often said on some of these with other artists that you know, we love good writing and stuff, but you know, I can put aside plot and character development twist. It's the story. What's underneath? What are you trying to say in this piece? And then beyond that, doesn't matter what the genre is or what the piece is. What is the story? And that's always the fun part for me. Is like, let's get to what we're trying to say. So that's to see that coming literally like next to you.
Oh yeah, page. Absolutely.
So cool.
It's so fun. That was like the funnest. I feel like, because, you know, I was just out of I feel like I was just out of college, you know. And that was my developmental time, is watching that process. So that's always what I go to in terms of like how I think a rehearsal should run, or how I think how open I think a playwright should be, or how a discussion about the work should go. It's all based on the openness that sort of August had to listening, but making his decisions, but to, like, everybody was vital, and like any voice was heard, you know, in the room, which was kind of cool. But you really, and he was very clear on the story he was telling, but he always wrote too much. It would always be like maybe 4 hours. And then you had to whittle it down to what is the play. And you could find some parts that belong in the play, but not to that character. You know, like this story or this theme or this talking about this event belongs. But somebody, it's in the wrong person's mouth. So it was like that. It was like a, you know, like a sculpture where you're taking, where you have a block and then you're taking away.
Yeah, that's, and the art reveals itself to you. You know, you're not dictating it. It's kind of like you're putting it out there and it's talking back to you. That's when it's at its best. So I was going to ask you, from those times, especially both as an actor, but clearly as a director and a playwright, a teacher yourself, do you take lessons, the things you learned all the way through to today?
One of the things I take from Lloyd Richards especially is that he really trusted us as actors. Not a big talker in rehearsal. He lets you figure it out. You know, like you walk over there because you need to walk over there. He's not going to tell you the blocking beforehand. You know, it's from what are you doing?
Motivated, you know? Movement. And,
So it's all motivated. And so he might clean that up or help you out with that. But there's a lot of time where he's not talking, where you're just working, you're just logically doing the beats. You know, day after day. And then it's like, which can also feel as an actor like disorienting, like, especially as a student, you're like, tell me what do you want me to do? Am I good? What is this? What is that? And I feel that it's much more empowering to let you find and spend a week, 2 weeks. I mean, we don't have this kind of time.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. But find what do you want to do? What's logical to you? What makes sense to you? And then we'll help with that.
And there's also, I mean, the practice of getting comfortable being uncomfortable. I mean, if it is disorienting, that's good. It's a good thing. You know, get used to being in that, you know, place. So you fold that in even now as you work, as you direct, as you teach. That's still stuff.
I do. And it's hard because I think like the generation of today really wants, you know, this instant answer and really wants to be told, which is so exhausting as an educator. I really believe you have to, in fact, my students hate me because I'm like, no questions. You're not allowed to ask a question. You have to do it first. But as soon as I explain an exercise or anything like that, hands are up in the air. You know, and everybody wants to talk. And it's like, I learned from another director I work with, Stephen Henderson. He says, talk it to life, not to death. You know, and really you've got to do it. It is experiential. And once you do it, then you can talk about it.
And it's acting. It's a verb. You know, the writer did that, the other stuff. You know, we'll work on that. You know, you get up and find the moment and do it. That's awesome. That's so cool. So out of Yale, like, when does the professional part of your career then begin? Like, do you move to New York? Do you like, what is the thing that you do to do it?
That was like an overlap kind of, because I guess my second year at Yale, I guess I got a part in the rep and joined Equity. And then I went to the O'Neill, maybe my third year, or maybe, I don't even remember. But, you know, so it was like overlapping. So being at the O'Neill, doing new plays there, I did that several years. And And so a lot of those plays end up getting produced. And so then I was in some of those plays after they got produced.
Wow.
And
so that's an immediate showcase to the industry. That's the beautiful.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful track of the Yale track. It's like everybody's looking at you.
And then of course we have a proper showcase.
Right. Right.
So the proper showcase, you get an agent, and I went to the O'Neill, and then my first show in New York was Piano Lesson, because it was on Broadway.
So cool.
So I came into that show.
All right, let's time out. Let's talk about that for a second, because, and I've had this conversation with other Broadway actors too. That first moment when you're walking into the theater to rehearse for what's going up on Broadway. What is that moment for the actor like, especially young actor? Did you think about it that way?
I thought about it at the audition, because the audition was on the stage with the set.
Wow.
And now remember, I know Lloyd, right, already. I know August already. And the play's already been open. I'm replacing. Mm-hmm. And so it was on the set with an actor.
Wow. And
that freaked me out. So actually, I blew that audition. And I literally said to Lloyd, "Oh, never mind, right? I just wanted to leave." It was like, when you come out of Yale and you have, your first agent and you're young, it's like a really hot time. I literally had 5 auditions that day.
Wow.
And so I was super busy and sort of overwhelmed by how busy I was. And I just felt freaked out. So I tried to quit. And he said, "No, he wouldn't let me." He brought me back. He calmed me down. And I did the scene. And then I got offered to play at the Public, which I was the Caucasian Chalk Circle, which I was super excited to do.
Wow. And
a couple weeks later, I got the offer for Piano Lesson, and that was that.
Wow. And then when you...
If that's the answer, yes.
Freaked you out. Absolutely freaked you out. So that moment when they're calling 5 and it's your opening, not your night on Broadway, what is it? Is there a moment of kind of dream fulfilled kind of thing there, or are you just a working actor doing your gig? What's the feel?
It was definitely a moment of I'm on Broadway. This is exactly what I wanted. Now what?
Did you have people in the audience for you?
Not that I remember. But I remember the cast making a big deal and applauding. I remember the stage manager announcing, "Congratulations, Rosalyn Coleman's Broadway debut."
That's so cool.
I remember that stuff, and I remember my dressing room being, filled with all the accoutrement.
Right.
And I love that stuff.
Yeah, that's when you really get somebody to come in and massage you.
Yeah, I loved all that. I loved just the excellence, putting on my wig, just, my costume fitting. I love costume fittings for Broadway. They are so amazing.
Why is that? What's that about?
It's like last was with Ann Roth for To Kill a Mockingbird.
Wow.
And the detail. I mean, you go to a studio somewhere in Midtown, you're in front of a 3-way huge mirror. And they bring all these, I have done a lot of period plays. They have the period underwear.
Wow.
And, the socks and the shoes. And everything is just fitted to you perfectly.
Wow.
And based on the sketches. And it's like, that's when I learned so much in that moment from seeing yourself for the first time as the character.
That's incredible detail to the undergarments of and it must affect how you physically move through this.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. And sometimes you have vintage pieces. It's amazing.
That's so cool.
Just who the designers are, Constanza Romera, for I think Piano Lesson and 7 Guitars. But just the costumes are just so amazing, how they're built, how they're handled, how they feel to put them on.
Wow.
So all that stuff.
So let's when I hear something, I often go off on a tangent. We'll come back around to the career in a minute, but so actors, and you'll see people often talk about outside in, inside out, that kind of thing, and method and sense memory and all that stuff versus playing an action and an objective and feeling. So that kind of a thing, do you use, I mean, I'm sure you have dozens of different tools you use as an actor, but that sort of textural thing, talk about how you use that, what that does for your
Well, that's one of the things that really frustrates me.
Okay. All right.
Is the I can't say that.
You could say
But
whatever
what
you
I'm
want.
working on right now, what I'm currently working on, like I don't understand how actors cannot work in rehearsal clothes.
Mm.
You know, I just don't get it. Like, how can you work in your sneakers and your jeans if you're supposed to be in an evening gown?
Right.
Like
Right.
to me, you can't work. I think it's first of all, is it inside out? Is it outside in? It's both.
It's both, right?
It's both. It's absolutely 100% both. But you can't find your body and your physicality without the right, at least the shape of the clothing,
Sure.
the feel of the clothing, and even the action of just changing your, I can't, I just can't stand the way my actors don't want to act in the right shoes.
That's
And the
huge.
shoes change
Everything.
thing. It's like you're not even acting if you don't have the shoes on.
Right.
I mean, figuring out who am I and how I move and how I live in this version of myself
Right.
is so informed by what you're wearing.
Do you also do you find aside from textural action, subtextual action, do you find like physical action, you know, Brando picking up the glove or something crushing a walnut? I mean, there's all that stuff that pulls your attention out of here into there. Do you use that a lot? Do you do stuff like that?
All that stuff, it totally feeds you. I loved just remembering playing Grace. I mean, you have a purse. I love when you have a purse, you know, and what's in your purse.
Right.
You know, and how do you like being in the wing and opening and arranging your purse. You know, just really always brings me in,
right.
You know, as that person. So yeah, all of that feeds you.
Physical
so
detail,
much.
Physical action. Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh yeah, totally. And like to get, you know, when I was freaked out, when I was auditioning, it's like I was so into, oh my God, the lights, the Broadway stage, you know, that I wasn't in the world.
Right.
But all that stuff is what brings me into the world.
Sure.
You know, and that's what makes you believe it. It makes you live in it. So then you're actually not thinking about actions and stuff like that. You're just living. Yeah.
And it's
right when you can believe it.
Right. And what usually pulls you out of it, because when you're pulled out of the piece, it's always, you got caught up in your judgment mind there. And what pulls you back in is the other guy. You know,
absolutely.
You know, literally that you don't have to do any acting. It's right there in front. Just do that.
It's so great. I love it. I love it. I loved like this moment where I was in the Mountaintop on Broadway. Now, I never went on. I was understudy for Angela Bassett. She never missed a show. But, you know, every Thursday, which is like understudy day, you get to do the play. It's a 2-person play, right? So you get to do the whole play with the lights and sound, everything.
Cool.
Every Thursday, which was great. And I loved doing that play. And I loved, I had this monologue about God. And in my imagination, I loved the way the lights would take me out of the world, you know, the front light of the Broadway stage, and would bring me to like a mystical place where I could experience God.
Wow.
And so you can find it on the outside of you. Sure. You know, based on what's around you too.
Right. Now also, do you, especially in the theater, but I find that, see, my preference is always to sort of be aware and include, you know, the truth of the fact that we're in a space. You know, like if we're doing a film or something, my taste is always to be I like flaws in the lens. I like to be aware of the camera. I'm not all hung up on resolution, and, you know, like I like to be aware that, you know, we both know that there's a camera here. We're watching a film. It's part of the truth of what's happening. And in the theater, even too, we are on a proceeding. There are lights. Is that informing you as well as you're performing? Like when you're moving around a space, or are you hard like fourth wall?
Oh no! You have to be. I mean, to me, that knowledge, but because the audience laughs, and
Yes.
because it's there and there's a dialogue that you cannot not be aware of them.
Right.
So that would be weird,
Right. And they would
you
know
know.
it. They would.
And they absolutely, it just wouldn't. No.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Cool. I like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there is an energy exchange that you have to acknowledge because they're there, right? You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you have to fill this moment while they're laughing. What's happening with you?
Right.
You know.
Right.
You know.
So how? First of all, how many? How long did that first Broadway run? How long were you doing that first one, the piano lesson?
I think I was doing that about. Okay, don't judge me. I don't really keep. I'm not a good time person. I would say about 9 months.
Okay, that's fine. I judge not because I barely remember what I did yesterday. So
yeah, so I don't. Everything is like what it feels like. That's what it felt like.
I like.
I
Right,
don't know if it was 9 months.
Let's
or
go.
Not.
Let's go with that. So at that point, are you kind of like in the theater loop where those are the jobs you're getting? Are you thinking about doing film and television? Like, is it all happening at the same time? What is your career?
It's all happening at the same time, and I'm not a big thinker.
Okay.
So one thing I did notice was that, I think this was during piano lesson, was that I did notice that I had other interests.
Okay.
Like right after I opened, I felt like, now what? And then so I was doing like maybe I'd do a day on a soap or stuff like that, little stuff like that, that you can do while you're on Broadway. And that's when during piano lesson that I started taking computer science class. So I could learn to build computers. And I was a little bored.
You had Dad as a resource there.
I had Dad as a resource and an inspiration. And I was ever so slightly bored because it only takes 3 hours to do the show.
Right.
And I don't need to think about the show all day long.
Right.
And I'm young and I got a lot of energy. So if I had auditions, and that's when I started coaching people. But otherwise, I needed something to do. So I took that class. I took writing class. So I started taking classes and stuff. But I started literally searching, like, had this feeling, what am I going to be when I grow up? I always wanted to be an actress on Broadway. That was my goal. And now I have to figure out what I want to be.
Right.
And so that's when I started searching.
So, well, to go back to the actual gigging of the craft there, like you said, now they do on-camera stuff and that kind of thing in Yale, but back then they didn't. So you're coming from the theater thing and you're starting to do the bits on soaps. Did you find this is a different world? Do I want to be in this world? Is the acting different for you? Like, did you notice that right off the bat?
Oh, yeah, I noticed that. One thing was I didn't ever know who I was acting with.
Yeah.
I spent kind of a lot of time on a soap, and all the producers who hired me got fired. Or I don't know if they got fired.
Right. They moved on somewhere else.
And a whole new team came on.
Right.
So they didn't know what to do with my character. So my character was very much used as a utility to help move plot.
Okay.
So I would act with people I didn't know, I never met, I had no relationship with. And they'd be like monologuing to me, crying, of course, which they would never do in rehearsal. Right. So, and I didn't even really know who they were. So it was like one of the most difficult, frustrating experiences, just because you could do like 50, 80 pages in a day.
Wow. And,
as everybody together, but you might do yourself 5, 8 pages.
Wow.
And not know what the hell you were doing, who you were talking to, why, where you were going, where you coming from. I delivered a baby this is the same character, delivered a baby, also did some lawyering. I didn't know who I was.
Wow.
It was so frustrating.
Do you think
it's like corporate acting?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah. And it's like, if maybe you come in at 7, maybe you finish at 3, and then you pick up your next script.
Wow.
And if you have a lot of pages, that's it. You can't do anything but work on those pages for the next day. That was hard.
It's hard, but did you find something valuable out of that? I mean, that's an interesting exercise in.
That was terrible.
In having to just like, all right, well, what's in front of me? Let me just deal with this.
Yeah, I guess I did the best I could, but I was terrible.
Oh boy.
And then it really frustrated me because because you had no rehearsal,
Yeah.
and because you would rehearse in an empty room, and the actors would mark everything and then disappear. And then when they come on set, then all of a sudden they're doing all this stuff, and you just have no
Wow.
idea.
Wow.
And it was just so frustrating to me. Anyway, so I did that as long as I could till I got fired. And then my whole early film and television experience was completely like that. It was just by the seat of my pants. And then I met this lady named Margie Haber when I was in Los Angeles. Oh no, she came here and I met her here. And I did her workshop and it changed my life.
Okay.
Because it taught me how to approach film and television as if it was regular acting. And so I stopped looking at it like it was something different.
Right.
So once I could look at those scripts, because I look at those scripts and they look like bullshit. You know, if you're used to looking at August Wilson or Chekhov, you're like, what is this shit? I wipe my ass with this. There's nothing on this page. It's terrible. Right. And because I couldn't even read a script in a way that was productive, Margie taught me how to do that.
Okay, so what's the magic there? I don't expect a lesson, but I mean, you know, all of us get the script where it's like, I got to make this truthful and human. And like, so what did she teach you essentially?
Well, you have to read it like you're reading a novel so that you're seeing the whole world. Don't read it like an actor, you know, trying to get a part or an actor going through a script, because then you're going to miss everything. So if you read everything aloud, everything on the page. Okay. This from the interior.
Right.
Roz's house, messy desk. Roz leans into a microphone. She intensely talks to Russ. Right. You know. Right. So if you read everything and then you start to take it in at that level, where you're seeing the whole, you know, as a novel, you see everything and you're taken in, right? Right. Whereas most actors, we just read the dialogue. We're like, all that stuff. What do I say? Right? I need to know what I say. Okay. And because we're so eager to get to our own parts, we miss all what's there. Right. And by not seeing that, then we don't notice that the beat just changed. We don't notice that because this dialogue is a really small part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. But in screenwriting, all that other stuff, whereas in Chekhov, right, we ignore stage direction. Right. We're like, I'll find what I'm going to do. Right. But in theater, we don't even look at stage directions. If there are any there, sometimes there are none there, and we could care less because we will discover it during the rehearsal period. Right. In film and television, you read everything on the page and you take those stage directions and those hints and those clues as seriously as you take dialogue. Right. So instead of dialogue being like this, you know, this thing that's up on the pedestal, it's one of many elements. Yeah. That helps you read it to where you can actually understand what is the genre, what is the writer's vision, where is the joke? Right. Yeah. Right. What's funny? That's a fantastic lesson for the actor to understand. You know, cinema it's a visual medium, whether it's film or television. So on a screenplay, the action paragraph, you know, is a lot bigger than the dialogue line. You know, so clearly that must be important. Maybe we should look at that. And what you're doing essentially is, as an actor, you're looking, when you're doing that, when you're reading that out loud, you're looking through your purse off stage. Oh yeah, absolutely. You're doing that thing because you're putting yourself in the space of the screenplay by doing that. That work, and so once that line between theater and film and television changed for me, and then I was able to, you know, audition successfully, get better parts, and really appreciate, you know, the craft of acting on camera. And you started to you've done a lot of guest spot television stuff on some cool things. What were some of the first ones where you had like a good little one episode arc? Okay, the first thing I did that was significant, I think. Well, of course, I did the Piano Lesson movie. So that was huge for me. Yeah. I think that might have been my first thing. Was that, now let's take a detour for a second there. Was that interesting and different to do in that setting, having done it on the stage? Oh my God, it was totally different and totally interesting. And, you know, at that point, I couldn't even read a call sheet. So, and, you know, they created scenes that Grace had that in the play is just talked about that we actually went and did and lived. Those scenes are in the movie. You know, you see us in all these other situations. And those scenes like literally have no dialogue. They're just moments.
Right.
But that is acting on camera, right? There are all these moments. You might not even have dialogue.
Sure. That must have been fun to, you know, finally illustrate a backstory and I mean, how cool is that?
It was so fun to like see where it lined up with my imagination and where it didn't. And we were in all these vintage places and these vintage clothes and these vintage cars. You know, like the cars are something I had never considered, you know, and I was actually in the car.
That's so cool.
It was so cool. And so that was my first big thing, was to do that. And then the other big thing is I did a TV movie called Ditch Digger's Daughters. And that was really big because I had a lead. And I got to play myself from like 14 to 40. And it's essentially a Lifetime movie.
Right.
And that was a really big deal because I got to play an instrument and there's a huge arc and all this stuff to do.
Do you play? So did you have to learn a craft, or do you play an instrument?
I just had to learn. Well, actually, I could play the clarinet, and I was playing the saxophone in the movie. So I just had to learn the fingering.
Right.
And the cool thing is with the saxophone is that you can blow it, you just don't have a reed.
Right.
So it's an easier instrument to fake.
Right.
Of all the instruments, I felt like I had it easier.
That's cool.
Because I could also do the fingering.
Right.
That was super fun. Wow. That was like a that was like Kimberly Elise was in that. Monica Calhoun. Oh God.
Oh, it's okay. Nope. I'm pretty sure they're not going to be watching. It's okay.
Okay, good. Good. Somebody just posted the picture on Facebook from that. So I was like,
that's pretty cool. So right off the bat, you got some real fun stuff to do on camera. I also saw that on your page that you did, what was it? The Meryl Streep one, music?
Music. Oh my God, that was so fun. It was called Music of the Heart.
Music of the Heart. That's where she's a violin teacher or something. I don't remember the picture. Do you get to work with her in it?
Oh yeah, I got to work with her. I did. I had like 3 or 4 scenes with her, which was so cool.
Right.
Because I was like
isn't she a Yale too? She's a
Yale. And Angela Bassett was in it too.
Oh, there you go.
And I had done this play at the Public where I wore called Everybody's Ruby. And they gave me a bathrobe to wear backstage. And the bathrobe said Bassett in it because Angela had worn it. It was an old bathrobe of hers. And the gloves that I wore on stage said Street in it. So it was like so perfect.
Oh, that's so cool. So did you guys like trade stories? Did you have a chance to talk with?
We didn't really talk about Yale. We talked about life more so.
Right.
But she's so generous. Like I remember the first day, the first scene up was a scene we have together in the playground. And I'm like this skeptical Black mother. She's a violin teacher and she's trying to get me to put my son in the program. Right. And I'm like, you some white lady who come up here trying to tell us what to do, blah, 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 blah. And she's, and so we finished the first setup and she goes, oh, thank God. And she gives me a huge hug. She says, Rosalyn, thank you so much. I'm always so nervous on the first day, the first scene. I'm like,
oh my God. Yeah.
Yes.
My mother won't let me.
Why? My son's got more important things to do than learn dead white men's music.
They're gonna learn Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star.
How many Black classical composers can you name? How many Black classical violinists do you know?
Well, that doesn't mean that's the way it should be. I mean, Naeem's just learning to play music. He makes him feel good about himself. What does it matter who wrote it?
Please, Ma, can I be in the class?
Look, I've seen this before. You white women come up here and think you can rescue our poor inner city children who never asked to be rescued in the first place. No, thank you. Come on.
And then in the movie, I have like a couple more scenes where I finally give in and give him my son. And then And then it's like, we don't have no money for a violin. It's okay. I have that scene.
Right.
And then I have another scene where it's like my son is 20 years old, and I've got gray locks, and then we get to see each other again.
Wow.
And so she went, I did whatever. I did maybe 2 weeks early. And then there's a big scene at Carnegie Hall where I get to see her again. I literally hadn't seen her.
You literally hadn't seen her, right?
Yes, and so we get to reunite on camera, so cool. And reunite. So it was great.
So let's talk about using her as an example. When you get on set or into a rehearsal process, because actors are, they're like, fish in the ocean. There's all different ways of approaching things. Do you get to observe someone's process? Do you
hers I did because we got to rehearse.
Okay, so do you melt right into it? Like, are you like, well, this is kind of what I'm gonna do, or this is how how does that fit?
Well, it was me, her, and Wes Craven, who was the director, right. And we had a rehearsal, and I was a mess because I might have been, I don't know. I don't even know when I did that in my career. But I know that my script was a mess.
Okay.
It was just like some pages, right? She's got a big notebook and it's all color coordinated and marked up and everything. And I can't even find the pages that were on. I'm like, what pages?
Right.
Right. And so she's like, has all her choices, all her decisions made.
Wow.
And I had, originally Madonna was in it. And I had done the table read with Madonna.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And so I had played all the scenes before, and I felt pretty clear on what I was doing, but I hadn't worked with the director, and I had very little. It's very, very rare that you get to rehearse.
Sure, in a film. Yeah.
Especially with the star, especially with the director, and not on set at all.
Right.
So so I got to see how prepared she was. I think that was the most impressive thing about her. Right. And I think we went through every scene and we talked about it. We sort of went through the arc of their relationship, because it's sort of like,
was she as interested in the sort of dramaturge as you were? Like, did you, because that's the one thing we talked about earlier, where you really like to talk about that kind of stuff. Not all actors do. So, I mean, that must have been...
Once we got going, I mean, we were very, I felt like, simpatico, and also the directors there, prompting the questions and stuff like that. So that was very, it was a very productive rehearsal.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So then when I went back and memorized the script and worked on my own to get ready for the actual shoot, I felt very clear.
Right.
Very clear. And then it was the first scene up. So
that's great.
So then it felt good.
Right.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun.
So as you're moving along through your film and television career, you're still doing theater at the same time. Like, this is all sort of coinciding. You're basically here on the East Coast, or you're in Los Angeles. Where are you dealing with your life at that point?
I'm basically in New York. That's like where I live always.
Right.
But, if I have to work, if I go wherever the work is, different things shoot in different places, North Carolina, Canada.
Right.
The only time I've gone to LA to work is when I was actually doing a play in LA, and then I got cast there. So you
stayed there for a while.
Yeah.
So where along this journey, maybe it's probably early, but I mean, somewhere along here, where are you looking behind the camera? Where's that, oh, I want to do that? Or
always there. I just always found it fascinating, because that's where the sort of computer stuff comes in. Right. Because it's interesting, I always love to look at the scripties notebook. It's kind of like a stage manager's notebook, which I also enjoy. Right. It's just like
a little more technical, yeah.
Yeah, I like looking at the notes and the cues and all that and the shots, and just being on set. You always learn so much, and you understand so much, and I'm just curious. And also, when you're acting, you have a lot of time.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So
there's a lot of
So what's the first thing that you decide is going to be, I'm going to take a shot at doing a production on camera, doing my own short or doing my own whatever? Where's that happen?
Oh, so my first short was after we got married. We had some money, so it was.
Wait, let's back up. Wait, time out. So you meet your husband doing something, right? I saw.
Yeah.
Where did you guys meet?
We met on set for a short film called The Window, and that film went to Sundance together and all that stuff.
Cool.
And it was actually at Sundance that we literally said we want to come back as creators.
Wow.
Because really from being around August too, it's, the actor's job is so precarious. What's good about it is you get a lot of opportunities. Right. What's bad about it is you don't have any ownership. And, you're the last one the last one to get hired or the first one to get fired. Right. And so just wanting to have more ownership and being around August, on opening nights and stuff, if you think you're happy, he is way more happy. Right. And I have this vision of him in the opening night of 7 Guitars. It's like all these stars are there, all these people are there. And I can remember looking across the room at him and thinking, we're all here because he was alone in the room and did his work.
Right. And
I, in my mind's eye, in my memory of it, his feet aren't on the ground. He's like 2 feet elevated. And there's air beneath him. And I just wanted that. And I was like, this actor thing is fun, but
right.
That's where it's at.
Yeah, something about pulling that thing out of the ether right through you into the world.
Being the creator.
And are you a writer as well, or no?
I will write if I have to.
You're just like me.
Yeah.
if you have to do it, you have to do it. But
yeah, if I have to do it, my husband's an amazing writer. So, but I have the first film we did, I wrote. Yeah.
Okay. So when those words that were, talking to you out onto the screen, and then some actor brings some other thing and it comes out, that's a whole different feeling than you doing it, right?
Oh my God, I love it so much. The reason I've never been in a film that I've directed is because there's so many wonderful actors. And they bring so much more to it than what was in my imagination, than what I thought it was. And that's just why I haven't been able to be in one of my films yet. It's because there's too many good actors,
Wow.
And I just love what they do with the material. My favorite, I love the auditions because during the audition period, I get so clear on what's happening in the scenes and what's happening with the character and who the character is. Just seeing so many people do it is so clarifying for me.
Do you ever get surprised by, I don't know if you work with casting directors or if you've cast stuff yourself, or either way, but do you ever get surprised when an actor you don't expect physically or type-wise or even whatever interprets a line or does something that you're like, what? Where did that come from?
Yeah, for sure. And I love that. Things I like to do in casting are I like to mix newcomers with seasoned professionals with theater actors. Maybe a theater actor who's the first time out. That's such a great mix.
Why?
Because everybody is excited. You have your veteran who gets excited by being with a theater actor. I love to have a newcomer on set because they're just so innocent and fresh and they don't really act. And, you're really capturing their essence.
Right.
And it's just, I love it. It's really beautiful. And then you have your veterans who really know what they're doing, who bring so much to it. And what it brings, the dynamic between them and a newcomer is so wonderful because the newcomer is all instinct, right?
Right.
Is all going on instinct.
Right. And adrenaline.
And so, and adrenaline, right? And the seasoned professional can just play them like a Stradivarius.
Right.
And so, and you get all this authenticity coming back at you.
That's so cool. But yeah,
It's beautiful.
I agree. I taught for a little while, and the classes were always mixed with people who had lots of credits and lots of things, and people who'd never done a thing. And that was always the most fun, was to see exactly what you're talking about, because it's like the truth finds you real fast, and it's very exciting. So I'm gonna bounce around once again. I'll get back to what you're doing now in your filmmaking and all that stuff, and teaching as well. But one experience that is unique to very small percentage of actors is the actor studio experience. When did you audition for the actor studio? What was that like? How many times did you get in right away? Like, that's a prestigious deal. What made you do that?
Prestigious. And Arthur Penn, remember him?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Academy Award-winning director.
And he was the president of the actor studio for a long time, right?
Yes. So he was doing a play, and I auditioned and got into the play, and everybody who got into the play got to be in the acting studio. So that's how I got in.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the play?
The play was called Breaking and Entering, and it was about cops.
Wow.
It was about cops. They had a large cast, and I played a cop, and I don't remember what I was talking about, but I was a cop.
Wow. So just getting in
to fight somebody.
So did you then kind of go work stuff out at the end? Like, do you walk in and go on the stage and, work scenes out, and you use that as a resource?
Yep. I worked on a one-person show, and I developed it at the actor studio because I could bring it in, and I used the rehearsal space, and I got it on its feet. I did all that there.
That's so cool. One time I got to do a reading of a play for Tony LoBianco. If you remember him, he was an actor in the 70s and all that stuff. And he did a play reading there. And I remember standing on that stage going, wow, Brando and Marilyn Monroe and everybody, Pacino and De Niro all worked that stuff out here. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's really good. Especially for like, if you have an intention, like developing work or something like that. I met one of this actor named Isaiah Whitlock there. He was in my first film. He's a great actor. He's in the Five Bloods, I guess.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
he's Spike Lee one. Is that the Spike Lee one or no?
Yeah, Spike Lee. Right. Yeah. So he's in that, and actually we met on piano. So I don't forget where you meet people, but or maybe we met there. I don't know. But we were both in that play too, and then we were both at the actor studio. But anyway, yeah. So it's a great place to develop work and to get feedback.
Yeah. So when you're working stuff out there, are people just kind of coming in and sitting in, or is it like?
No, you have to get a session. You got to sign up.
Okay. All
and
right.
Everybody's there, and then you get, you put your work up.
Okay.
And you get worked on, get feedback. And I remember I did a scene with Estelle Parsons there. She asked me to do a scene with her. The thing with the actor studio was it was old and white.
Right.
And I don't know if you know, but I was young and black at the time.
That's a surprise. Just shocked.
Yeah. Well, back then, this was years ago.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they really wanted fresh blood.
Sure.
And they really wanted. And so I think that's why Arthur brought us in. And I think that's why Estelle asked me to do a scene, and why they wanted us to be involved to, bring life to it.
Sure. Well, let's follow that road a little bit. I got a little more time with you. I'm not going to keep you forever, but let's follow that road a little bit, because you, like I said, you're in sort of the transition of this arc of history, inflection point that's bending now. You've seen the roles from, the mom, don't put my kid in that school, to the world that we're in now, where hopefully we're looking at things a lot differently. What's your experience of that? What do you see about that? I hate to use the diversity word, but it's like that's kind of what
I just see more opportunity.
Yeah, it's different now.
I see it's just more opportunity, more range. I mean, the thing is that where the opportunity comes from is because there are more Black writers and directors creating their own work, which is why we started creating our own work.
Right.
Is because there just wasn't enough to do.
Sure.
So because it wasn't enough to do, you if you're, young and adventurous like us, like we were then, get yourself a camera. What I understood was acting. I knew story very well. I was very good around the table. I knew dramaturgy really well. So, and those are really key things. And then I could hire people to help me with the tech.
Right.
I understand drama. I understand blocking. And when digital filmmaking came along, it was just attainable. Yeah. So we were like in a lot of the first Black film festivals with our films. We know all those people from back then.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So it was like, but those people, have gone on to become Hollywood people.
Right.
And that just makes more stories and more opportunities.
Right. And I think the whole kind of undercurrent of everything, like I was saying to, I don't know whether it was Liz or one of the other casting directors I had on here, that it's the one business, if you look at entire society, that actually has kind of put their money where their mouth is and done that. I mean, even if you look at just commercial television, Hulu and Netflix, every new original piece and every even advertising campaign is the most diverse business that's out there. It's doing better than any other business I can think of.
Yeah, yeah. And whereas like when I started, it was like there was, everything was either African American or everything was assumed white, or it was specifically African American, and that was it.
Right.
And there just weren't that many. There wasn't that much openness to seeing somebody who wasn't what was specified.
Right.
For a certain role. And sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. But there was like, there was Friends and stuff like that with like literally no Black people. Seinfeld, no Black people in New York. And we were just like used to that.
Yeah.
That was just how it was. You didn't, you didn't get to be on those shows.
Right.
So, wow. You could be on the Law and Orders.
Exactly. That's right. And even Law and Order was like, what kind of crimes does this unit investigate? It's always like, some rich person on the Upper West Side killed somebody. It's like, That's not what happens in New York, is it?
Yeah, and we could always be the people, all the lower class people.
Right.
And then
the nurse, whatever.
Yeah, and then they make us judges too.
Oh, that's good.
Which is kind of odd, but just
it's probably some underlying guilt somewhere floating in there.
Yeah, but it's always like you can always make a judge.
So
we all play judges,
right? So all right, so you did similar to I have a similar process too, where when I wanted to start filmmaking, I had to learn all the tech stuff, and I had to start understanding what lens did what, and what. So I self-educated myself on that stuff. Is that kind of the way you went too? You kind of learned as you went in filmmaking?
I learned as I went, and I took a lot of workshops. Like I did proper, weekend here, weekend there, that type of thing.
Did you ever, because you get to work with some great people on great sets, did you ever use them as a resource where you say, hey,
always.
What is that you doing there? Why is that that eye reflects this and, whatever? Yeah.
I almost always make friends with the director. If they're open to it, whatever. If it's not, if it's a movie, more so if it's a movie than if it's a TV show, because the TV show,
there's no time,
Yeah, but on movies, I usually make a friend. It's just my natural curiosity sort of brings it up.
Would you
say
have
a passion for the same thing?
Would you say you have a style after doing enough film work, like where as a director, where you're like, this is sort of visually how I like to tell a story, or does each story influence kind of how you do it?
Each story influences. So I'm very much led by the script.
Gotcha.
And then I find the style, and then I usually find some movies that I think look like it, and then I go find out what I read all the articles or everything that they said about it, or if I can, I talk to them directly about what they were doing, what they were going for in their style, and then I copy it. So like a lot of my short films were like, oh, that's this film. Like that's me I'm using the exact same camera package that they use. Right. And I'm using their style. Of course, it doesn't come out like theirs because they're them and it's a different story and all that stuff. Right. But then sometimes when I meet the director, I can tell them, oh my God, I made a short film and I use your exact package. Blah, blah, blah. And that's really how they get to be my friend, because they're like, oh, yes.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I fall in love with cinematographers, different cinematography, and certain things that speak to you. Like you're like, oh, I like that. You know,
Yeah, I definitely have this like strong feeling if I see something, I say, "Oh, I wish I made that film." Like
right,
this, I should have made this. This, I wish, I would be so proud if I was the director of this.
right. All right, I'm gonna just do a couple more things because you have so much to cover. You just,
I know I'm
just
all over the place.
you have such an incredible, accomplished list of things. The teaching.
Okay.
First of all, we'll get into the teaching specifically, but I saw one thing, you were an on-set coach for a show that I loved.
In Treatment.
In Treatment on HBO with Gabriel Byrne. And first of all, that's an interest. I never heard of that job. You're an on-set acting coach. What did you do? Like, what did you have to do on?
Well, on-set acting coach, I got hired by the producers who found me on Facebook.
No kidding. No kidding.
Yes. No, yeah, because that's why I'm always like, you should be on social media. Wow. Because I get a lot of jobs that way. And they had season 2, they had like a Black couple, and the couple had a kid. Oh,
right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And sometimes when the producer feels like an actor needs some more support, they do it all the time. I've done it for lots of different things. They'll bring on a coach for them, and you can rehearse with them. You help them create the experience, whatever they need to believe. Okay. You help them believe that. Do exercise with them. You're with them on the set.
So, are you working with them before the working, like rehearsing before the working day, as well as on set, kind of jumping in and giving a pointer? Wow.
Yeah, I'll do all that, and so, yep. All of the above. And so then sometimes depends on how the director producer wants to work.
Right.
But they'll talk to me and then I have to go talk to the actors.
Right. I wonder if that's a function of, because aside from differentiating from like a theater director, film directors and television directors often come from a different kind of background. They
don't like to talk to actors.
They don't speak the language all that much.
Some of them don't.
Yeah.
And some of them, they confuse actors when they talk to them.
Right.
And some of them, they have other things on their mind. There's a lot going on.
Yeah. A directive like, do that better, usually doesn't help.
Yeah. And that's what they tell me. They tell me, do that better. And then I got to translate that. Well, they'll say, I didn't believe that.
Wow.
And then I got to go translate that into something that the actor can actually use,
right?
Can actually affect their performance. And sometimes I just go and say, how you doing? You look nice today. I don't even say anything about what they said,
right?
Because sometimes the actor just needs another take.
Sure.
And there's nothing wrong.
Right.
And because like I come from Lloyd, right? I trust actors. Look, they just got here, they're just warming up. Just relax,
Right.
And so sometimes I won't say anything. Then if I need to say, I wait for the work to start cooking.
Yeah.
Before I start messing with it.
Yes, right.
Yeah,
because gems and magic might come. They're bringing a whole bunch of truth of themselves to it. So.
Yeah, it really depends. I got to find out how that actor is wired.
Right.
Right. Some actors, when you talk to them, they feel criticized and they shut down.
Right.
So I have to find something that is going to ignite their creativity,
right.
that wakes them up, right, and doesn't make them sleepy. Like that's what was particularly challenging because most of it is incurious talking.
Yeah, yeah.
It's almost all talking.
Yeah.
And that's not, that's kind of unusual to have so much dialogue.
Yeah. Oh,
and
especially
just be sitting there.
Right, in a therapist's office,
In a therapist's office?
Great stuff for actors. I mean, what a great show for an actor to be on. But
it's great. It was also overwhelming because the script changed. This is why also they needed me. The script changed.
Wow.
A lot.
Wow.
So we'd do a table read and I'd be like crying. It was like so good. And then they chuck it all and they constantly rewrite. So and the set is ready, the lights are ready, and we're getting new pages.
Wow.
And new pages there have chunks and chunks of dialogue.
Wow. Wow.
So it was incredibly hard to get off book or not get off or do it not off book, right? But to find the new life is that they were changing it. They were rewriting and it was great. But it was very stressful
Yeah,
for an actor.
Yeah, yeah. You got to deliver. I mean, it's all the cooks in the kitchen above the, that line.
That whole situation was mad stressful.
Wow.
Because of the new pages, and the set was always ready.
Wow.
So we'd wait 6 hours for new pages, and now we got to go.
Yeah.
And this new dialogue.
Well, I'll tell you what, the result was fantastic. I mean,
it was fantastic.
That was a great show. That was a cool show.
It was a great show.
So let's talk about that now, igniting the artistic passion. When do you start teaching? Where you're literally, and now we can get into a little bit of crafty stuff while I got a little time with you left, is what is kind of the thrust of your process? Is it method? Is it Meisner? I come from the sort of David Mamet practical aesthetics, no psychological bullshit stuff. That's where I come from. But what's your thing?
I would say that I do, I was mostly trained in method. I never had the patience for Meisner. But I use a little bit of everything.
Okay, right.
So it really depends on what I teach is more practical aesthetics.
Okay.
It's because
what do you want? How are you going to get
what
it?
do you want?
What's
what
happening?
are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing?
What happened the moment before?
Right.
Where are you coming from?
Right.
Who are you talking to? What do you want?
Yeah.
You know,
what's happening right in front of you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that is the most critical.
Yeah.
If you know your moment before and who you're talking to and what you want, you can play the scene.
And are you doing things like scene study type things, or are you like how?
I teach on-camera acting.
Okay.
That's my specialty. My specialty is helping actors transition from being in training programs to working, and working at stage actors to becoming film actors. That's my specialty, is that gap.
Right.
Because that's what, and Margie Haber taught that to me. And so that's what I teach others.
Right. And I would think that that's where something like a practical aesthetics, a real sort of nuts and bolts, what's going on, what does your character want, how are you going to get it?
Because you already know how to act. I teach people who already know how to act.
Right.
Right. So you have to access your imagination, your inner life. That all has to be available to you. Right. So, but in film and television, the thing that makes it so hard, and it made it hard on In Treatment, is that we're working so fast.
Right.
We're working so fast. We're working without rehearsal. That's very, very discombobulating to theater actors.
Right.
People trained for the theater.
Right.
So, and we think of you become Blanche Dubois. Blanche Dubois is out there and you become her. But in film and television, you have to reveal your version of her, who's, based on you. So it's a different way of thinking of it. It's a different approach. So you say, the first thing you do in film and television is you say, I am this person, period, full stop.
Right.
So we're not waiting to become the character, right?
Right.
I am this person,
right.
period. And so, and whatever they experience, that's me. That happened to me.
Right.
Now, how can I make myself believe that? So maybe I am born in Ann Arbor, Michigan, but maybe not. So I might have to change discombobulate my backstory depending on the story the person that I am.
Right.
Right. So we figure out what that is. Where does that diverge? Where are the differences? And then what do we need to change? Sometimes it's stuff in my education. I look at values, intellect, physical traits, social status. What are mine? And what are who am I as that person? Okay. Right. And then I try to make myself believe that. Right. How can I believe that I care, that I wake up in the morning thinking about justice instead of Roz wakes up thinking about, that's so creative. What am I going to do today? Right. What am I going to create?
And because, I'm sorry. And because it's such a visual medium where instead of a, 250 seat proscenium, the frame is, like this, does physicality come into it?
Physical traits.
Yeah. How do you, what are your tics? How do you move? How do you, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Physical traits make it's a huge part of it. Right. And it's so, how am I behaving if I am, still with the lawyer, I'm in a courtroom.
Right.
Right. So I have to adjust accordingly to the courtroom. Usually I don't have actors thinking about what are my facial expressions, so that usually puts them in their head.
Sure.
But if you think about what do I want, what is my mask?
Right. Right.
You know, I have to maintain a professional mask, right? Now, when I hear about how this person was murdered, I'm disgusted.
Right.
But am I going to get them to testify if they can see the disgust on my face?
Right.
But there are always cracks.
Right. Right.
You know.
Right.
You know.
And
we let it come up. We got to swallow it down.
And the camera never blinks, so all those things are revealed in small.
Oh, the camera reads underneath the muscle of the skin, right? So we're like, we're monkeys, right?
Yeah.
So we read faces.
Yep.
And so the camera reads faces. It's a truth detector. So if I'm trying to hide that I'm disgusted,
right,
but I am maintaining a professional mask,
right,
you're going to be able to read the underneath.
Right. It's the old, acting idea of, the drunk is trying not to be drunk.
Of course.
So,
but yet we have to create the reality of being drunk.
Exactly.
Right. So then there has to be, and that's like the life that I might help an actor with, is creating that. Maybe they've never been drunk, right?
Right.
So we're like, okay, so what is that like? What is that as if? And so then we might do some exercises where we experience being drunk. Right. Okay, now that we've experienced it, now let's hide it.
Right. I love it. You just threw out very quickly. You just threw out one of my favorite terms, the as if, which is which in the technique that I eventually fell in love with was it's sort of like creating your own sense memory. It's the idea that this situation is as if this would have happened, or as if this, not where sense memory is finding the central textures of some actual thing that happened to you.
Yeah.
And that's effective, I find, like in film, where you need to bring something up really, really fast, and maybe you can grab that, the thing when you're a kid, mommy help me, or whatever, and and it immediately is there. But in a rehearsal process where you can create an as if this would have, it's the argument you want to have in the elevator after you left the meeting,
right?
You know, and everybody can have that. Everybody can get to that place quickly, and not a lot.
Yeah, you have to be. For me, I have to be able to figure out which one does this actor work with,
right?
Which one excites this actor, right? Which one does this actually get a response?
Mm-hmm.
Especially working with young actors, when you do sense memory, very often they go dead.
Right.
Because they just don't have that much experience.
Right.
Right. You can use observation. Right. We can look at any. I mean, they have it so easy nowadays. They just look up anything on YouTube. Right. And you can just sit there and empathize.
Right.
And say that's me. Right. And then you can get it in your body like that.
Right.
A lot of times I shy away from using the person's life because it tends to make it too complicated. Sometimes with older actors who are used to that, it's fine. It's like a shortcut. It's a nice shortcut,
right?
To treat this person like they're your mother.
Right.
But sometimes it's like your mother's relationship is too complicated.
Right. Exactly.
And then that brings the mind will be like, well, my mother would never do that.
Right.
My mother wouldn't do that.
Right. No, there's a whole dime store psychology to that part of it. Like I said, it's effective when you need it quick, but it's better if you can create sort of that imaginary what if.
The imagination, also you're safe in your imagination.
Right.
And at some level, deep inside, you know that you're safe.
Right.
And that allows you to play in these really dangerous, dark places in your psyche.
And predetermined things aren't already laid in hard pathways in there. New things will happen. You can be surprised, which is like, yay. That's so cool. Oh, you're awesome. I'd love to take your class one day and see what that's all about. So let's finish up with, you meet this wonderful man, you become partners, and he's a writer. Mm-hmm. What is it like to work like that, with your partner and your creative partner at the same time?
We love to work together. First of all, if we're on set and like he's a producer or he's the writer, I just feel really safe. Like he has my back. Sets are like dysfunctional families. So it just gives me the room to stay creative and to think. And he's like killing solving problems and winning wars that I don't even know about.
Right.
So that's awesome. And so like in bed at night, we can talk about what actually happened during the day that I don't even know that happened.
Wow.
And so, but in the development process, that is even more fun because I just feel like we have an incredible shorthand with each other. I love his writing. He's just every few months, he amazes me. He's just gotten so good. He's really amazing. And so I'm good at asking him questions.
Right. I was going to say, he'll throw you something, you'll read it and be like, okay, so what, this, that, and the other. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, he'll say to me, like he was working on a horror film and he was like, oh, I'm not going to work on this anymore because it just doesn't interest me. And I'm like, that's because you lost the psychological perspective of the Black woman and how she feels like she's being accosted all the time. And that's the seed of it. And because you've lost that, you just want to chop up people. It's not interesting to you.
Right.
Buddy.
Yeah, pal.
Yeah.
Try this.
It's always got a little edge to it, too.
Try this perspective, bud. That's awesome.
Yeah. Because he's like really, 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 really good, and he's super confident. But I'm like one of the few people who can sort of help open his mind in a new path.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. Open his mind in a new path. Yeah, that's what you do. I'm sure that's what happens. But that's awesome. So
I always get mad at him if it's not good.
That's right. That's all. So I saw in the one of the things you sent me was sort of the lookbook of a new thing you're working on.
Oh,
can you talk about that? Is that something you can talk about?
Oh yeah, we're so excited about that. That's my film project that's coming up.
Okay.
It's called Hanging by a Thread, and it is about it's about his family really, but this bipolar brother who finds out that his nephew is suffering from the same disease, and he's like the brother is like a street artist. He's an amazing vendor. He sells his street clothes that he makes. But when he finds out that his nephew is also bipolar and he's being treated with medication, which the main character doesn't believe in, kidnaps his nephew.
He kidnaps him.
Yes, to show him a life free from pills.
Wow.
And that goes wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Very wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. That goes left. And it's really about like, what really resonates with me about Hanging by a Thread is like, what do you owe your adult siblings in terms of a relationship?
Okay.
Like, do you take care of them? Like, what is your obligation to them? Are you your brother's keeper?
Okay, so there's your story. Are you your brother's keeper?
Yeah.
Fascinating. And you got some great people involved with that one as well, right?
Yes. So my friend Viola Davis is the executive producer along with her husband, Julius. And so that was really exciting getting them involved. We have some actors who are interested and
what stage in the development process are you? Like, are you ready to go or are you gonna?
Oh no, we're not ready to go. One thing is we have COVID.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
The other thing is we are literally, I don't know if I'm allowed to, I don't know. We're waiting to hear from Amazon whether or not they're going to.
All right, so you're we don't have to go too far into any of that, but you're waiting to see where the money is going to come from. And
Exactly. So we have great people working with us on it, and
that's cool.
We have like two ways to go. We can either go, the Amazon way, or we'll end up going independently. Right. Either way, we win either way.
And where do you want to do it? Do you have any ideas where you want to shoot it?
My fantasy would be to shoot at Tyler Perry Studios in
Georgia, Atlanta, or wherever he is.
In Atlanta,
yeah. Cool.
That would be awesome. Wherever.
So what else is cooking besides that? Anything? I mean, that's a big project, but
that's a really big project.
Are you still working as an actor too, or are you still doing that?
Yes, I have, let's see, well, right now I'm directing up at SUNY Purchase.
What are you doing?
So that's what, the Colored Museum. So I'm doing that this month, and the next month I'm doing an audiobook, it's like 600-page audiobook. And then, yep. And then hopefully maybe COVID will be over and we can move forward with the films.
That's so awesome.
I don't know. So
I think we're going to turn the corner on this stuff, and the good thing for folks like you and all of us who want to do these things is there's going to be such a pent up, human need to express, and especially even in the theater, people just need that. You need that.
Yeah, I still have 6 months left on To Kill a Mockingbird, so I don't even know.
I didn't even get into that process. That show.
Yeah.
How was that? I mean, that's.
It was really. I was cooking gas. It was really fun.
The name. What's his name? The writer. He adapted it. Sorkin, right?
So I was about to say Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah, I mean that's great stuff to be chewing on.
Yeah, he's so cool.
Oh yeah,
he is so cool. He's like comes to rehearsal, he cries in rehearsal. He's like so into it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's like a Hollywood heart.
Wow.
He's Hollywoodish, but he's also like an open heart walking around.
Is in that kind of a situation? Is that kind of a writer still throwing notes and things, or at that stage?
Well, he did when I came, because when I came, also I was in second cast. Russell
was that the Ed Harris one?
Yeah, I'm in the Ed Harris cast.
Okay, cool.
Okay, and Russell came, and Russell is deaf and an actor. Russell Harvard.
Okay.
And he's deaf, and he played. I can't even remember the character's name.
You're in the show.
It's been so
I know,
long.
right? Yeah.
Almost a year.
Wow.
I'll have to start all over again with that show. Anyway, so because Russell was deaf, there had to be some rewriting. For Lim. Is there a character named Lim?
It's possible. It's been a while since I've seen the thing, so I don't know. Or read it. Probably was the last time.
You know what I do though? I work in like segments because I work in so many different gigs. Right. So right now I can tell you anything about Colored Museum.
Right.
Because that's where I am.
You compartmentalize your.
Yeah, I compartmentalize, and so I load all my names, my characters, all that is just loaded for that. The only things I kind of remember are like I remember Forever Piano Lesson or Seven Guitars or things that I did early on, because you never forget those.
Right.
Like I could probably recite the whole play, but all the stuff in between is a blur.
Yeah.
All of it is a blur.
Well, that's a blessing. I mean, what that tells me is you are the true working artist, and I have really, really enjoyed you giving me all this time. I mean,
Thank you so much.
So amazing. I learned so much, and I could go another 2 or 3 hours and dive into all kinds of different stuff with you, because you really articulate what it is to be a working artist and what it is. The inside baseball of the craft, which is what we really want to get into. I just want to say thank you personally. That's awesome. Thanks for doing that.
It was so fun. Thank you. You made it so easy. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
It really has.